Hi, guys, and welcome to today's episode of Flow Finding. It's another Flow Finding Friday, and it's been a couple of weeks since the holidays, and I'm glad to be back. I hope you're excited to be back. I hope you're glad to be back too. I hope you had an amazing holiday and you have started the year on an amazing note. So, my name is Suni Malo for those of you who are catching up on these videos for the first time. And I am the founder of Flow Finding. Flow Finding is a process that helps you make decisions that can lead you to be, do, have, and create the life you want or what you truly desire. So over the past couple of weeks, hello Miriam, thank you for joining in today. Over the past couple of episodes, and if you have missed any of my past episodes on flow finding, please do check IG Live later or go on YouTube and just check. You would see my videos there. Feel free to catch up. Okay? Previous videos, we have talked about how you as a person can get to a place where you find your flow, which means getting clarity on what you really want. Getting clarity on what you really want and getting to a place where you're able to create what it is that you truly desire using a couple of steps. Okay, one of the first steps I talked about was actually getting clarity about what you want. The second session we had on flow finding was also about recognizing those hidden resources that we have around ourselves and actually utilizing them to the fullest. Hi, Mariam. I hope you've had a great week and are already having a wonderful 2021. Thank you for being here. So today, on today's episode, I want to talk about something really short, something really simple, and something that you can put into practice right away. Like I said, Happy New Year. I'm sure everyone has written down their plan. Almost everyone, I'm hoping, has written out their goals and plans for 2021. And if you're one of those people, then today's episode, I just want to share with you 4 easy steps that you can take that would help you crush those goals, okay, right away. Because one of the challenges I notice is people write their goals easily. People know what they want, they plan it out for so long, but are not able to take the few or the first few couple of steps that would get them to achieving that very purpose. Okay, so 4 quick steps. The very first step when it comes to crushing those goals is, I'm assuming you have written your goals. The next thing to do is break down these goals into manageable sizes, which means what are the steps necessary? What are the steps needed to take you from this point where you are right now to the other point where it is that you want to go, for instance, okay? So if my goal is to build a house in 2021, is just an example. Some of the steps will include purchasing a land if you do not already have one. First, deciding where the land will be, purchasing or scouting for a land, buying the land, getting an architect to do a design. All of those are steps. So once you're able to put down your goals into manageable steps, the next thing you do is put a timeline to these steps. If your goal doesn't have a timeline, it's only but a wish. Put a timeline to them. So from this time to this time, what I'm going to be doing is scouting for a land in certain areas, or I'm going to be sending out proposals to companies. I'm going to be sending out applications to companies, or I'm going to go out and market. Give a timeline. All right. Once you have portioned your goals into small, manageable sizes, and then put a timeline to it, then you do the second very easy step, which is what? Get started. Get started on the very next step. Sometimes we're very overwhelmed when our goal looks big, or we're overwhelmed when we're not sure where to get started. When you find yourself in that position, start with the very next thing. Start with the very next thing that is in front of you. Hi, Uchizi. It's been forever. I am so glad to have you here today. Hello. I'm not sure where you are right now, but I hope you're doing great. So, I said the very next thing to do with these goals is get started. Sometimes we go over and over our plan, we write our plan out, we talk to people about our plans. The only thing and the most important thing that we should do is actually do it, but we can't find ourselves, or we can't get ourselves to get started. All right. So the very next thing you do is start. When you don't have all the answers, start. When you don't have all the information, start. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. Are you going to make mistakes? Probably yes. But start. Sometimes fear cripples us from taking the very first step in our goals, or the very first step in creating the life we desire, especially if that goal is a bit terrifying. If it's maybe quitting a job or starting a new job, or, getting into a new organization, whatever it is, if it gets a bit scary, then we keep holding ourselves back from taking the first step. But if there is any one cure for fear, it's action. Action gives you motivation. Action keeps you going. Action gets you started. So whatever your goal is, whatever you've written down to do, no matter how big, no matter how small, put a timeline to it. Like I said, put a timeline to it first. And secondly, just do it like Nike. Just take the very next step. You don't have to see the end of the plan. You don't have to see how it's going to end. You just need to take the very next step. So for you, if that very next step is writing a proposal, do that. For you, if taking the very next step is making a phone call, do that. If that very next step is going out to market a product, do that. Don't worry about doing everything at once. Take the very next step that is in front of you. Oh, Cheesy, I miss you too. It's been a long time. Zach, hi, I'm glad you could join us. Thank you for joining in today. All right. So I said 4 easy steps to crushing your goals 2021. Very first one, write out your plan in manageable sizes and assign a timeline to them. Make sure that they are in small stages and assign a timeline to them. The next thing I said is take the very next step. Take an action. Take an action. It's the only way you can get to achieve that goal, by acting. I remember I was having a session with someone recently, and one of the challenges was, I can't go out with this product. It's not perfect yet. The post is not complete. The video is not properly edited. If you want to wait to get everything perfect, you will never get started. Okay? The best way to move on is to fail forward. Take the action, move on. Take the action, move on. Which brings me to the next step. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes you need to change some things. Sometimes you need to redesign your plan. Sometimes you may even need to change the goal entirely. But you would never know until you start. Okay? The very next tiny step that you can take to help you crush that goal is be flexible. And this, for me, is one of the most important points when you're chasing your goals this year, when you're chasing the life that you desire. Because yes, you deserve to live the kind of life that you really want. And you have it in you to create that for yourself. So this point is be flexible. Be flexible. What does flexibility mean? Some of us have written out wonderful goals, but they are not going to work out, or they may not start out the way we anticipated. Okay? The things that we're looking for, we may not see entirely at the start. Plans change. Things change. All right? Things that you intended would go this way to the right may end up going to the left. But what do you do when these things happen? The temptation most times is to sit down and just throw every plan away, or sometimes to just, it's not worth it, or it's not working. But the goal here is be flexible. If the goal is to, let's say, let me see. What's one of my goals? Let's say if your goal, for example, is to start a business or to raise enough money to start your own business, right? And maybe all that you had in mind was this particular uncle of yours or this particular bank you were going to write an application to for loan, or you just had this thing in mind that I'm going to apply here, I'm going to get this, and then I'll move on. More often than not, you go to that particular person or place and you don't get what you're desiring. Or maybe you wanted to partner with your friend, but at a particular time, your friend is not in that space. So sometimes things don't work out the way we plan. What do you do when that happens? It's very key and very important in you moving forward. What do you do when things don't seem to go your way? And what I'm saying is be flexible. Be flexible. Make sure that you have options when it comes to your goal. If plan A is not working out, move to B. If B is not moving, move to C. If C is not moving, move to D. If you have only one way to achieve something, you don't have an option at all. And if you have only two ways, Tammy, thank you for joining us. Ola Kunle, thank you for being here as well. So if you have one way of doing something, you don't have an option at all. You don't have an option entirely. And I'm sure somebody is asking, what if I have two ways of doing something? I'm sure I have an option. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. When you have two ways of getting something done, do you feel you have an option? When you have two ways, if I don't get it from A, I'm going to get it from B. Do you feel like you have an option? If I don't go right, I'm going to go left. Do you feel like you have an option? When you have only two ways, do you feel like you have an option? Okay, so I'm going to wait for your comments there. Let me know if you think two ways of doing anything is an option. But the goal is for you to create a lot of options for yourself so that you don't get stuck, so that you're not depending on only one thing or one person per any time. All right. Okay. Thank you. Olakunle says, yes, I have an option if I have two ways. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate that. So do you have an option when you have only two ways? I really want you to think about this. It's a very simple point, but it's something that can change a lot for you going forward. All right. I said if you have one way of doing something, or you have only one person you're counting on for your goals to come to pass, then you don't have an option. But if you have two, someone says, oh yes, you have an option. Let me give you a very quick example that we hear every time. If someone comes to you now and points a gun to your head and says your money or your life, do you really feel like you have an option at that time? Yes, you may have to give one to get the other, but do you really feel like you have a choice at that point? I'm betting no. So for you to actually be able to have choices, make sure you have 3 or more ways of getting something done. Sorry, NEPA has tricky. If you're in Nigeria, you'd understand that concept. Okay? So make sure that you have 3 or more ways, you have 3 or more sources, you have 3 or more support systems, you have 3 or more resources available to you so that you can move on. So like I said, be flexible. If you get to this place and get a no, don't pack up your goals. Go to the next place and go to the next person and go to the next thing until you get moving. All right. So I said 4 simple steps to get crushing on your goals. First, write them in manageable small chunks so that you can get started. The next thing I said is, don't worry about doing everything at once. Worry about just taking the first step, just the very next step that is in front of you. Don't worry about the entire plan. Focus on the very next step and keep moving. Then the third I said is, while you're moving, things may not go as planned. Be flexible. Be willing to change your way of thinking. Be willing to change the way you achieve something. Be willing to change the way you had intended to do something. Okay? So be flexible. Number 4 is feedback. Feedback is the response. So if you take this very first step, look back and see, okay, what went right? What did I do right? What do I need to improve on? What do I need to change? Okay. What did I do right? What do I need to improve? What do I need to change entirely? It's very important for you to take feedback on your way to achieving your goals. It's very important for you to take feedback every now and then, because that's the only way you know if you're doing okay, if you need to change something, if you need to stop entirely, or if you need to start over. Feedback is key. Feedback is important. And when I say feedback, it's not only about somebody giving you a verbal feedback. If your goal, for example, is to write a post a day, every day on your platform, the comments that people leave is feedback for you. The likes that people leave is feedback for you. And sometimes the questions that they leave behind is also feedback for you. The question is, are you listening? Are you listening? All right. This goes as far back as your relationship. Okay. What the feedback people give to you, what they say to you, pay attention. These things you can apply, you can learn from, and further advance your goals. Take feedback. When you do something and it doesn't work, the question is to sit and say, okay, why didn't this work out? What do I need to change? Who do I need to bring this to? Who do I need to bring on board to make this whole idea better? Questions. Take feedback from your goal. Take feedback from your goal and then reapply and then redesign the goal entirely until you're able to get to where you want. Feedback comes in various forms, from people, online, offline, depending on what your goal is. You need to learn to listen. You need to learn to pay attention to the feedback that you're receiving. Okay, if you are sending out applications, for example, and you want to maybe further your education or applications for a job, the feedback you're looking for is, okay, no responses. What can I do differently when I'm sending in my next application? Or what can I do differently when I'm going out to sell today? What can I do differently when I'm talking to my next prospect? That's the point. Do something different. Then repeat the circle all over. Repeat the circle all over, okay? So my advice to you is, as you go out and work hard on your goals, last week I shared a video where I said, remember to act from a place of peace. Sometimes we go all out there and we're trying to do this and do that because somebody else is doing it or someone else is doing it. And, oh, I really need to do this and I need to do it now. So we go out from a place of fear, from a place of urgency, and we're not able to get anything done. However, while you sit down and plan and breathe, then you can take actions deliberately. You can write out this plan, take your very next step. Be flexible when you're working on it, and feel free to take the feedback the first step has given you, apply it to the second one, and take the circle all over again. You may not see that you're making very big progress at once, but the baby steps that you're taking would accumulate in the long run, and you would see that you have made a difference. You would see that you have done something right at the long run. Okay, so I really hope that you have found value on today's short video that I said 4 key points to pay attention to when achieving your goals. Set a timeline and make sure your goal is broken down into baby steps. The next I said is take action. No amount of planning is going to replace the place of work. Schedule and do it. Plan and do it. If at the end of the day, today for example, you set your goals to say, today I'm going to send out 1 proposal, I'm going to make 2 phone calls, I'm going to connect with 1 old friend. 3 baby steps. Before the day ends, make sure that you have gone through these goals and realize, okay, what went well? All right, please pay attention. 3 things you're taking feedback. What went well? Okay, the next thing is, what can I do differently? What went well? What can I do differently? And the next thing is, with what I know now, how would I act going forward? What would I do differently going forward? How does this affect my goals? Okay, action. Nothing takes the place of action. I don't care how much you plan, how much you talk about it, nothing will take the place of action. So get started today. Fear is always going to be there. Feel the fear, but do it anyway. If you have to make that your motto, make it. All right? Feel the fear, do it anyway. Feel the fear, have that conversation. Feel the fear, send out that letter. Feel the fear, make that phone call. Feel the fear and post that article anyway. Feel the fear and go on IG Live. Feel the fear, make that video. All right? The fear is always going to be there, but it only goes away by action. Taking actions over and over and over again. Then the fear diminishes. Okay? Now, when you find yourself in a place where you don't know what next to do, don't worry about getting the full picture. Take the very next step, and that's all that matters. Don't be scared about making the wrong decision. Don't be scared, oh, what if I get it wrong? No. Take the decision, take the feedback, and run with it. So that's the circle. Thank you for joining me today on Flow Finding. We'll be back next Friday, same time, for another episode. Yes, thank you, Tammy. Feel the fear and do it anyway. As you go into this weekend and plan for next week, feel the fear, do it anyway. The fear is always going to be there. The only antidote is action. The only antidote is action. All right. So do have a wonderful weekend ahead. Feel the fear, do it anyway. And see you next week on another episode of Flow Finding. Feel free to watch the past videos on YouTube and access my blog as well that I have shared on Medium/Sunimalu. All right. I would love to hear your feedback. I would like to hear your questions. Feel free to reach out to me and we can get this going. So thank you and bye-bye.